When Brittany Renner converted to Islam, everyone thought it was about faith. But what if it was never about God, and everything about a man? And when Travis Hunter got baptized months later, the pattern became impossible to ignore. This isn't just about religion, it's about control. By August 2024, Brittany Renner made headlines when she embraced Islam. Her decision drew a wave of support, but also a fair share of doubt. Many questioned her intentions, suspecting there might be an underlying reason behind such a life-changing move. Months later, in April 2025, the truth behind her motivations surfaced, and his name was Kevin Gates. Kevin Gates, known for his deep connection to Islam, appeared to have played a major role in Brittany's spiritual journey. His ex-wife, Drea Gates, had also embraced the same faith, and soon after, Brittany followed suit. Their relationship would eventually dissolve, but the influence Kevin had on her conversion was undeniable. It's a familiar story. Love often inspires faith. Throughout history, women have adopted their partner's religion as a gesture of unity or devotion, particularly when marriage is on the horizon. Brittany's path seemed to follow that same pattern, guided by affection, belief, and the complex intersection between the two. It's a rare sight to see a man convert to a woman's religion, especially when he holds greater influence, status, or resources. Such moments are exceptions rather than the rule. Yet, as life often proves, there's always an almost. One of the most talked about relationships across social media has been between Travis Hunter and Leanna Lynn. Their story took center stage last December when news surfaced about Leanna's past infidelity. But beyond that scandal lies another layer: their age difference. Leanna is about a year and a half older than Travis. While that gap might seem trivial to most, in their situation, it carried weight. When Travis was still in high school, Leanna had already moved on to another stage of life. That gap gave her a certain edge, a subtle leverage in their relationship dynamic. Travis, younger and still finding his footing, often appeared to play the role of the follower rather than the equal. A glimpse into their relationship revealed early warning signs. Leanna once shared that Travis would drive her to parties, wait outside for hours while she drank and socialized, and then take her home. At first glance, it might seem like patience or devotion, but it also spoke to an imbalance. A partner waiting in the car while the other parties inside hints at unequal respect and boundaries. The imbalance became more visible after the Colorado vs. Oklahoma State game. Footage showed Leanna upset and visibly irritated, and Travis struggling to respond. Critics online quickly labeled him as passive, someone unable to keep his partner in check. While that phrasing oversimplifies things, it does highlight a truth about youth and relationships. Emotional maturity takes time. Travis, still young and learning, hadn't yet mastered how to assert himself or maintain balance in a partnership. Their story, in many ways, became a public case study in age dynamics, emotional readiness, and the subtle power shifts that can define a relationship long before anyone notices them.
He doesn't drink, and I'm Hispanic, so I have tequila like in my veins. So I drink. I don't drink a lot, but I drink, and I used to party and stuff. And he would literally drive me, sit outside for hours while I'm inside like partying, and then.
This young woman raises an interesting point. She believes that if she's out of line, her partner should hold her accountable, not to belittle or control her, but to set clear boundaries and expectations. It's about respect, not dominance. Yet, it's surprising how many men fail to establish that balance. Take a look at relationships like Will and Jada, or even Papoose and Remy Ma, examples that show how financial success or status doesn't always equal control in a relationship. In the case of Travis Hunter and Leanna Lynn, it was evident who held the upper hand. Despite Leanna having little financial independence or professional standing, she seemed to dictate the direction of their relationship. Travis, the one with the career, money, and talent, still found himself on the losing side of emotional power. Even after she was caught cheating and lying, he forgave her, and not only that, he married her and started a family without the protection of a prenuptial agreement. From there, the situation only spiraled further. Leanna appeared to gain even more influence over Travis, and their dynamic became increasingly unbalanced. Then, another layer emerged: religion. Just as Brittany Renner's conversion to Islam stirred public discussion months earlier, Leanna's sudden embrace of Christianity raised eyebrows. In an emotional post from July 19, she reflected on her transformation, writing that God had changed her heart and freed her from the world's shackles. She spoke about peace, identity, and spiritual renewal, but too many observers Her newfound faith seemed like a response to personal turmoil, rather than a genuine awakening. After all, her public repentance followed a season of exposure, one that she largely brought upon herself. Her spiritual rebirth came only after facing the consequences of her own actions. Critics noted that if this faith had guided her choices earlier, the chaos might have been avoided altogether. In the end, Liana's story became a vivid portrait of how crisis often precedes conversion, and how, in love and faith alike, transformation sometimes arrives only after everything else has fallen apart. By the spring of 2025, Travis Hunter's career had reached a defining moment. He was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, going second or third overall in the NFL draft. Known for his rare ability to dominate on both offense and defense, Hunter was stepping into one of the toughest challenges in professional football. For most athletes, mastering one side of the ball is grueling enough. Travis was doing both. Long days in the training facility, constant film study, endless physical exhaustion. This was his new reality. Meanwhile, Liana Len, now a mother, was at home caring for their child. Motherhood is an immense responsibility, no doubt, but it's clear that Travis carried the heavier load. Beyond the physical strain of his dual role on the field, he was also the family's sole financial provider, the engine behind their lifestyle. So, when Liana posted a clip of him quietly preparing a baby bottle while she slept, praising him as a teammate in parenthood, many saw the moment as sweet and wholesome, but others couldn't help but notice the imbalance. Why was the man working 80 to 90 hours a week still the one tending to late-night duties? The gesture spoke volumes about the subtle power dynamics at play. A relationship where emotional symbolism often overshadowed practical balance. Then, something even more significant happened. On October 12th, just before the Jaguars faced the Seattle Seahawks, Travis Hunter made headlines once again, this time for getting baptized. ESPN and other outlets covered the moment, celebrating it as a public declaration of faith. It was a moving scene, a young NFL star cleansing himself in faith before stepping onto the field. But beneath the surface, questions arose. Travis had never spoken openly about religion before. No sermons, no faith-driven posts, no spiritual commentary. Yet Liana had been very vocal about her newfound Christianity earlier in the year. So people began to wonder, was this Travis's personal spiritual awakening? Or simply another example of her influence guiding his path? Faith, love, and power often intertwine in complicated ways. In this case, what looked like a moment of divine renewal might also have been a reflection of how deeply one partner's beliefs had begun to shape the other's world.
Are supposed to correct the energy of a woman, not match the energy of a woman. All right? Y'all hear me? Do y'all hear me? Because if I'm walking around acting petty, ignoring you, like I want to beef with you, you supposed to grab me up and say, hey, listen, we ain't doing none of that. Fix yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's how a real man handles stuff. Now, you sitting there matching my energy, you want to walk around and not speak to me too, and you want to move weird, you want to move funny. That's feminine. That's feminine. That's what girls do. We are known to be petty.
And here lies the heart of the issue. As a man, you simply cannot thrive while following a woman's lead in every major decision, especially when the foundation of that relationship is already uneven. Travis Hunter entered his relationship with Liana Len at a disadvantage. He was younger, less experienced, and without a prenuptial agreement to protect his future. Add to that a complicated history, a partner who once admitted she didn't like him at first, who had been caught cheating and messaging other men. And it's clear the power dynamic had already tipped in her favor by December. When Liana's infidelity came to light, she turned to religion as a way to rebuild her image and reclaim emotional stability. But the irony is striking. After finding her own redemption, she began guiding Travis down that same spiritual path, not out of mutual faith, but as a continuation of control. The same woman whose actions fractured the relationship was now shaping its moral direction. And that's the central problem for Travis Hunter. His decisions, personal, spiritual, even emotional, no longer seem to come from his own convictions. They appear to follow the pattern she sets. When a man allows someone else, particularly a partner with a history of instability or manipulation, to define his beliefs and boundaries, he risks losing more than leverage. He loses his sense of self. Travis's story, at its core, isn't just about love or faith. It's about identity and the danger of surrendering leadership in your own life to someone who hasn't earned it.
The worst thing you could do in dating, worst thing you could do as a man is follow a woman's lead. Do what she says she wants you to do. Because here's the problem. They do it subconsciously to bait you, to see if you, as the man, follows the woman's lead. They're testing your power. It's a stress test. You're not supposed to fucking agree. When they want more attention, or they want this or that, you're not supposed to say yes. You're not supposed to be like, okay, I like you, I believe you, okay. Guess what fucking happens the second you do that? No respect, relationship gone.
At this point, it's clear that Liana has taken control of the masculine energy in their relationship. And that's something Travis Hunter may never fully reclaim. This isn't about dominance or control for its own sake. It's about balance, respect, and self-determination. Every healthy relationship needs equilibrium, a mutual flow of respect, where both people can lead and follow in different moments. When that balance tilts too far in one direction, it's not just love that suffers, it's identity, purpose, and emotional integrity. For Travis, that shift seems to have already taken place. From the outside looking in, you can tell he's not a bad partner by any stretch. In fact, he embodies the kind of man many would admire: a hard-working athlete, a devoted father, a man willing to put his family above everything else. He carries himself with quiet patience and humility, traits that, under normal circumstances, would strengthen a relationship. But in his situation, those same qualities appear to have become tools of his own undoing. His patience has turned into passivity, his humility into self-erasure. Liana, on the other hand, has positioned herself as the emotional leader, the one setting the rhythm, calling the shots, and shaping the narrative of their shared life. There's nothing inherently wrong with a woman being influential in her partner's life. In fact, great women often help their partners grow. But influence becomes manipulation when it's used to mold someone into your version of who they should be, rather than allowing them to remain who they truly are. When reports surfaced that Liana had encouraged Travis to sign with Lil Wayne's label simply because the rapper was one of her personal favorites, it revealed something deeper than a business decision. It spoke to how easily she could sway him. The choice wasn't rooted in strategy, financial foresight, or even musical alignment. It was driven by emotional persuasion. For a man whose career depends on discipline, self-direction, and clarity of purpose, decisions like that can quietly chip away at his independence. Now, his spiritual life appears to be taking the same path. Religion, by its nature, is supposed to be deeply personal, a journey of conviction, reflection, and internal peace. When Travis embraced Christianity shortly after Liana's very public conversion, it raised eyebrows not because faith was wrong, but because of timing and motivation. Faith is meant to be chosen, not assigned. And when a man adopts belief not out of personal revelation but out of emotional obligation, the act becomes hollow, more about pleasing someone else than seeking truth for himself. That's the real tragedy here. It's not about religion, or money, or even fame. It's about a man who seems to be losing touch with the core of who he is. When you begin shaping your entire world around another person's expectations, your individuality starts to fade. Slowly, imperceptibly, your boundaries blur. Your decisions stop being your own. You start second-guessing your instincts, suppressing your opinions, and silencing the part of you that once guided your path. Eventually, you wake up one morning and realize that your life, your choices, your faith, your future, have all been co-signed by someone else. This pattern isn't unique to Travis. It's something that plays out in countless relationships, especially among young couples where one partner has yet to fully establish emotional independence. Love, when genuine, should make you stronger, more self-assured, and more centered. But when love becomes a form of quiet submission, it begins to drain rather than empower. You can't build a stable foundation when one person's desires continually eclipse the other's sense of direction. In Travis's case, his youth and temperament work against him. He's still learning how to balance career demands, fame, family, and self-identity. Meanwhile, Liana, despite being only a little older, has learned how to wield emotional leverage, not necessarily out of malice, but out of habit. For her, control might feel like comfort. For him, compliance might feel like love. But these two forces cannot coexist indefinitely without causing resentment, confusion, and imbalance. The irony is that Travis's willingness to bend is probably what made him so appealing in the first place. His soft-spoken demeanor, loyalty, and protectiveness are qualities many women admire. But even the strongest virtues can become weaknesses when taken too far. A man who's too accommodating eventually stops being respected. He becomes predictable, manageable, and easy to steer. And once respect fades, love often follows. This isn't to vilify Liana. People respond to power dynamics in different ways, sometimes unconsciously. But her behavior highlights how subtle Emotional influence can become manipulation when one partner continuously benefits at the other's expense. When she convinced him to join a record label or embrace her spiritual path, she wasn't just making suggestions, she was shaping his life trajectory. And perhaps that's the saddest part. Travis doesn't appear to be aware that his autonomy is slipping. On the surface, everything might look picture perfect. The loving father, the devoted husband, the promising NFL star. But behind that image lies a man who's gradually losing ownership of his choices. His relationship has turned into a quiet performance, one where his role is to maintain harmony, no matter what it costs him personally. This is the silent danger of emotional imbalance. When one person dictates the tone of the relationship, even subtly, the other begins to shrink. They start saying yes when they mean no, compromise on things that matter deeply, and take on guilt for things that aren't their fault. Over time, that imbalance doesn't just erode love, it erodes self-worth, and that's why this story resonates beyond just celebrity gossip or social media buzz. It's a mirror held up to modern relationships, reminding us how easily power can shift when emotional clarity isn't present. A healthy relationship requires two strong individuals, not one leader and one follower. The goal isn't for a man to dominate or for a woman to control. It's for both to walk side by side, rooted in mutual respect. Travis's story, in that sense, is a quiet warning, not just for men, but for anyone who's ever lost themselves trying to make someone else happy. Love should inspire growth, not submission. It should challenge you to become more of who you are, not less. The moment you start compromising your values, your faith, or your purpose to maintain peace, you've already surrendered the very thing that makes love meaningful: authenticity. A partner who truly loves you doesn't ask you to become smaller so they can feel secure. They don't demand that you abandon your individuality to fit into their version of happiness. They stand beside you, not above you. They push you to make decisions for yourself, even when those decisions don't benefit them in the end. Travis Hunter's journey is not about failure, it's about awakening. At some point, he'll have to decide whether he wants to keep living according to someone else's script or start writing his own. And that choice, though painful, might be the first real act of freedom he's had in years. Because real love, the kind that lasts, doesn't require surrender. It requires strength and the courage to stay true to yourself even when it's easier to give in.